Review Committee. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Member Polanowski?
Here.
Member Greiger?
Here.
Member Allen?
Here.
Member Kanik?
Here.
And Chair Samarajic?
Here.
We have a quorum.
First off, I would like to thank Kathy English publicly for her service. She was on the board and appreciate that very much. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
I sent an email earlier, and I don't know, it was a short notice email where I've been asked by a lot of people about the $213 million need that we have. So I sent an email to the city manager and the finance director asking how that could be funded. And I don't know what they have, but if we have just a few minutes to add that in.
Sure, we can add that to the agenda. Item E. How do you want to word that?
If it helps, I can cover that under item C, because we are talking a little bit about just some of the different revenue concepts that we've been looking at as a city.
Perfect.
And so I can give a kind of a general update on where we're at with that process.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Any audience comments? No audience comments, no audience. Can we move to item 3A, approval of the November 5th, 2025 meeting minutes? Any comments on the meeting minutes? Motion to approve.
I second the motion.
Motion passes.
Who was the first motion?
I motion.
Do we need to call roll call on the vote?
That can be a simple voice vote.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item B, opportunities to increase parking revenues.
Hello,
Good afternoon.
I'm Kathleen Murray. I work in the city manager's office. I've been here for about a year, and for just about that entire period of time, I've been working on parking. Not exclusively, but for a long time I've been working on parking. I think you probably know that we did a parking study with a consultant, an expert in parking, who told us a lot of things about how parking should be managed or could be better managed in the city. And there are signs and ordinance changes and lots of different structures to parking that they have suggested. And the parking rates specifically, am I talking too loud? Were not part of their analysis. So that's something that I've been working on. This year, we've established an enterprise fund for parking, which essentially treats parking as its very own business within the city structure. So we track the revenues and compare them to the expenditures and see where we can make changes to make parking more financially productive to the city. And the idea is that if there are investments to be made in parking, that those investments would be made with the revenues from parking instead of pulling the revenues from other parts of the budget. So we find at this point that we have an opportunity to change the parking rates in the city to make more money. Now, I've heard through the grapevine that the mayor has challenged us to find $500,000 in parking. And I'm here to say we can do it. Okay, but I'm going to admit to you that I've never used this clicker before, so I'm sure I'm going to screw up. Okay. Just to sort of set the stage for you all, metered sales of parking on an annual basis are about $6 million. Saturday and Sunday are our big ticket days. Saturday and Sunday alone are about the equivalent of the other 5 days of the week. Friday is a strong second to Saturday and Sunday. The average transaction for parking is $8.67 across all different kinds of places to park and types of rates. But some transactions are less than $1, and some transactions, believe it or not, are over $100. That's pretty much when people leave their car overnight or, for a couple of days. But the transactions can go that high. We have 2 basic sets of rates, one for the county park and one for the rest of the city. I call that the city parking rate. There's a boat ramp rate, there's a holiday rate, but we're not really going to be talking much about those right now. Okay, so how can we make more money off of parking? The first thing, the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is passing through that 3% charge for credit card usage, because every parking transaction that happens in the city is paid for by credit card. So taking that 3% and passing it through to the customer. One, you should know that based on that average ticket that I told you, between $8 and $9, that's 26 cents a transaction. 2, over the course of the year, that's about $160,000. So by passing that through, we would increase our revenues or decrease our expenses, I'm not sure, by about $160,000. But 3, the thing is that, especially for a government entity, it's sort of best practice to pass through those credit card fees. Customers aren't surprised to see that, and it's just typically what's done. Okay. I'm going the wrong way on my own little notes there. Okay, so now I'm going to go through a couple of other options. Sunset pricing. Sunset pricing is what I want to, it's adding a premium to the parking fee from 4 o'clock until 8 o'clock in the evening. That's for all those people who come to town to have dinner, maybe to have a couple of drinks, and to go hang out at the beach and see the sunset. Between 4 and 8 o'clock at night is about 20% of our metered sales. And if we added $1 an hour to each transaction, it would yield about $280,000 a year. So if you think of what the impact is on the consumer, if you think you're going to come to St. Pete Beach for 3 hours, have dinner, drinks, and sunset, it would increase your cost to park by about $3, from $15 today to $18 in the future.
Does that include the 3% for the credit card?
No,
Okay, that's
these are all individual.
options.
Individual.
Okay.
The question is, what do we think that city can tolerate?
Sure.
And what can we sell the most easily? Okay, so another possibility is establishing, there we go, a seasonal pricing model. If we say that in season is February 1st through April 30th, and we add $1 an hour for all transactions from February 1st to April 30th, we would yield approximately $475,000.
Well, we're almost up to 600.
Well, if you did all three.
Oh, we're over. Again, I'm going the wrong way in my little notes here. Okay, what's confusing to me as I do all of these analyses is the fact that there's one rate structure for the county park and another for the rest of the city. The county park right now costs less than parking in other parts of the city. So if you're picking which beach you want to go to, and the price of parking is part of that analysis, you're going to pick the county park because Pass-a-Grille and Upham cost more because those two sites are part of the city parking pricing model as opposed to the county
Does the
park.
county have any input into the price?
The county does not, but I will tell you that, I mean, we have a contract with the county, and it has been long thought that, I'm told, that the county decides what the rate is, but the contract that we have with the county does not indicate. But the county maintains several parks along the barrier islands, and all the parking is priced similarly, $4 or $5 an hour. I think that the city should consider not having two different sets of pricing, but having one set of pricing, just the city parking model, that would apply to both the county park and parking within the rest of the city. Now, it is important for you to know that we split the parking revenues at the county park 50-50 with the county. So if we increased the rate to park at the county park, we're only getting half of that, whatever the increase is, and the county gets the other half, unless we can renegotiate with the county, and I don't know what the possibility is of that. Anyway, eliminating the county park rate would increase our revenues by $300,000 a year. The impact of that, beachgoers who go for 4 hours, although many of them go for much longer than that, for 4 hours, they would see their parking cost increase from $16 for the day for the outing to $18 on a weekday, or from $19 to $22 on the weekend. But it would get us $300,000. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of money to pay for parking if we instituted all of these different changes to the parking models. But what about people who live here, who just need to go to the optometrist or want to run to the coffee shop and or the post office or some other place, you know, around the town that, you know, they're errands for the day. So we might think about giving them a benefit.
Don't they, isn't it free for people
Yeah.
who live in the city now?
Some, and some is not.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
just for-
designated, it's designated areas.
Homeowners in designated areas have free parking.
Well, no, homeowners only have it in designated areas. Yeah. Like I can't park everywhere for free. I just know the spots I can.
In your neighborhood, you can park for free.
No, I can park in Pass-a-Grille. I mean, Upton, Pass-a-Grille, there's like 6 spots that I can park as a resident.
6?
I think it's like 6
I've been
spots.
parking in meter spots and I've never got a ticket because of resident pass. I think it's every meter spot.
Every metered spot
Yeah.
is free to residents. You're
Yeah.
talking about permit parking in neighborhoods.
Yeah,
That would not be free for you because it's limited to the
Right, right.
zone
right.
of that neighborhood. And
Metered spots
the
are,
metered spots
are
are
all
free for
free.
everyone.
Our parking system doesn't tell me who is parking in what spots. I only know when somebody is parking in a certain area. So to do the analysis of whether it's a resident or a non-resident and what kind of benefit can we give their resident would be a very difficult thing to do, and it might just be a sort of knee-jerk reaction on our parts if we decided to do that. But just think, if we wanted to do something like that and we wanted to decrease the price of parking in the mornings for everybody who might pay a meter, we could do that. We could decrease the price of parking by an hour. We could I'm sorry, by $1 an hour or by half $1 an hour. It's really up to us to be creative about what we might do. I can tell you that if we lowered the parking fee across the board from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m., it would cost us $582,000. So add all of these other things together that we talked about before, but by giving that particular benefit to residents would cost us.
Okay, to implement that,
Yes.
you have to be able to identify the residents' vehicles. And we have a system in place now that could do that.
Yes, we do. Yep, we do.
The big question is, how big are these signs gonna be when we finally finish this process? They're not confuse all the, I mean, I'm for
Yep,
implementing higher rates.
yep.
We need the money, and I
Yep.
think the people will pay it. The thing is, how are you gonna put all this in signage so somebody could understand?
I'm not sure that we necessarily need to put all of it in signage. Maybe we just need to change the signage that's already there, which is not a ridiculously large job.
Okay,
Actually, can I?
Of course.
So the technology now, we don't really need much signage. We need, because they have QR codes. And so the end user just does a QR code and they can see the rate right now is X dollars. They go to the pay machine, they pay. So we won't sign clutter the place.
Great.
We're not gonna have to, it's just like you go to St. Pete,
signs
you don't know how much you're
displayed.
gonna pay till you go to the pay station.
Right, or pay by your phone, right?
Yeah,
the pay
and the
station.
phone will tell you right away,
or
so
the
it's,
pay station can tell you,
yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
or your phone.
Okay, so, there are lots of ways that we can increase revenue from parking. I've outlined a few for you today, but we could increase all of the hourly rates on the meters. We could consider Friday part of the weekend instead of a weekday. That would raise revenue. We charge a holiday rate and a boat ramp rate. If we wanted to change the holiday rate from $25 for the day to $40 for the day, we could do that. We're limited by our own creativity, really. And so,
Question on the boat ramp.
yes,
I understood that only residents with a boat pass can park in the boat ramp area with a trailer.
I don't know.
Nope, nope,
No?
I don't know.
no, you, Annie,
Here he comes.
I don't believe that's the case.
yeah.
Okay.
It's open to anybody. So
It
right
is?
now it's $25. I will tell you, by looking at the data, sorry to jump in there, but looking at the data, that's about what the county charges for all their boat ramps as well. So we're kind of in line there. Kathleen did a fantastic job of looking at comparable cities. So we're trying to present some options to you that are somewhat in line with other cities, but there are certainly some creative options. I'll tell you, we did kind of change some nameage to the Sunset Surge for that late night, and that's in line with what Treasure Island's doing. The demand base, where we're talking about potentially doing the weekends at a higher rate, and certainly including Friday into the weekends when we start seeing the demand get higher, that would be kind of unique to our area for sure. If we were to increase that rate during the high demand season, maybe mid-February, I think we talked about, into the summer, I think that would be unique to our community as well. So there's certainly some unique options that we can do, but a lot of these are in line with what other communities are starting to put in place. So we're excited to hear your all's feedback and kind of see where we're going to take this thing.
Right. What resonates?
Well, wait, Kathleen, are you able to provide to the board the revenue associated with Friday being part of the weekend?
I could.
as well, okay, like your work desk or here? Okay. And then also the amount for the increase on holiday from 25 to 40. And it might be helpful for the board to hear if they chose all of these, what's the potential annual increase?
Oh my gosh, who has a calculator? John? Do you have your computer? Calculate me. Okay. So the first question is about Fridays. So if we changed Friday to a weekend day, what we'd essentially be doing is adding $1 an hour. There are almost 200,000 hours on Friday, so that would gain us $200,000, adding the Friday to the weekend rate. Right now, the holiday rate earns us $385,000 at $25 an hour. I'm sorry, $25 a day. If we changed that to $40 a day, that would be 385,000 times 15.
$5,775,000.
Yeah, that's not right.
That's not
That's
right.
not right. Yeah.
But but he did the math right.
Times
The numbers,
15.
the
Yeah, you
numbers-
gave him the wrong
Yeah, the wrong
numbers.
number, the numbers,
Oh, I'm giving the wrong number?
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're right. We charged the holiday rate 32,000 times.
That's 32,000 times 15.
Yeah,
Francis, you're good.
yeah. Which is 480K.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Well, I can tell you my feeling is that we should go for all the rate increases because we need the money. And I think we have great beaches and people will pay the price. We can always back off on the rates if we find a problem with the
Very
rate
true.
increases. Since it sounds like it's just a simple software thing to change what the people see. I'd like to hear everybody's comments, but that's how I feel that we should go for the rate increase. In as many places as we can, including the county park.
Very good. Anybody
Thoughts,
else?
Comments?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I think the county should be the same as us, hands down. I mean, that's just uniforms, everything, and there was no question there. And then I like really all of the increases. I would say if we're gonna do them all though, I think that the credit card charge, I know everyone's doing it, and I just had to do it when I just paid for my auto the other day. But if you have another option other than credit card, then that gives that consumer the option where you don't have that option. And if we're increasing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different other things, and we're gonna be well into the millions on these because of the dollar amount, maybe not do that one, because people do get sensitive to that 3% upcharge for credit card, and that's why they pay cash. But when you're doing it at a Tilly or on your phone, you don't have that option. That's the only thing, that's my only feedback on that. I agree that people aren't sensitive like that anymore, in the sense of, I mean, people are getting used to it.
Right.
But if we're gonna increase, let's just call it the sunset, the seasonal, the county, the holiday, the Friday, and then add the 3%, I don't know. That might be, I don't know if everyone will recognize all the increases, but they'll definitely recognize that one. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
So why not do all the other ones except that one?
I agree with you 100%. That, if there's another option, then we would
Yeah,
get
if you
that
could pay
first-
cash, then.
Yeah, that three,
then yeah.
but we just build it into the price now, and that's basically how we're passing it through.
Yeah,
But this is my wheelhouse. I've been working in parking garages since I was in my 20s. actually running them. So
He still does.
I still do. So yeah, these are great points, and I do think that we have a great opportunity to increase our revenues based on parking. There are other ways that we can figure this out, because one of the things that we didn't address in this are rainy days and cold days and just odd days.
Red tide.
Red tide days. So there is a way that, and I know this happens a lot in England, that they have AI that runs their parking, and it says, okay, we're up to 60%, so we're going to charge 100% of our fee. We're up to 80%, so we're going to charge 120% of our fee. We're down to 20%, so we're going to charge 10% of our fee. So does Park Mobile do anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can tell you that Park Mobile and Flowbird, our two providers, have just been acquired by Arrive, which is a French company. And I'm sure that they will be bringing improvements and sophistication to their network here.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like Uber when they surge, surge areas. And so that's really actually smart. I love that.
And that's
And
exactly-
it's super easy, especially with an app or Arrive or whatever the name is that's going to be,
Arrive, yeah.
Now, granted, we don't own that, we can't probably tell them, but I mean, a surcharge during, no brainer.
So, and the whole point of that is that not only do we increase the revenue in parking, which is what you've been working the past year on, trying to figure out, but we also have to look at the businesses around there, their point of view too. So if we raise this, say we raise this, and there is a red tide there, people are going to say, okay, well, I'm not going to pay $40 to park in Passive Grove when I'm just going to be coughing the whole time. But if it's $2 to park there
Right.
through the whole dinner because we're at 20% capacity, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to go to the Brass Monkey, or I'm going to go to Grace, or whatever it is they're going to go to. And I think we look at that side as well as we look at the city revenue side too when we're making these decisions.
I do have the I'm sorry, Francis,
Just wanted to give you context on why we're here now with the rates. So completely agree. I've done parking myself. I'm a little bit of a nerd on the data. We just don't have the technology right now to do what you're describing. To get there would probably take us 18 months through an RFP process, a design of the demand pricing model, the installation, because we need different technology to track those sort of things. So our strategy here was, we've heard loud and clear from the commission and the community that revenue is a serious topic. And parking was sort of the lowest hanging fruit to be able to bring to you to say least or zero impact to the residents. What we're proposing you today is, we think, just based on the data we have, we can survive the market conditions. Because if you go too far, you're right, they're just going to say, I'm going to Treasure Island. We know we're a little cheaper than Treasure Island still to park, and we're a better beach. I'll go on record for that.
And I'll second that.
So that's the reason we're here today, was to try to say, can we get a revenue enhancement as soon as possible, preferably before high season this year, to start really helping us reinvest back in infrastructure, all while this team right now is about to go out to bid for technology, would love to put in a high-tech demand-based pricing. It's really cool. But we're just not there yet. So it's how long do we want to wait to do the first kind of, I'll
Do
say,
this
phase
and-
one of
and
rates.
Look at the high-tech possibility and the cost of the high-tech.
Yeah, when does the RFP, when does the 18 months start?
Adam or Kathleen?
we haven't approached that yet.
Well, yeah, so we have a draft. Again, the parking study, if you've reviewed the parking study, it was very extensive, right? So there's a lot of things to handle through parking. Again, we heard loud and clear that revenue is a must, so we kind of handled this first. The RFP is a little bit more complicated than just the parking. It's also the license plate enforcement. We're actually looking at the possibility of adding technology, for example, at the county park, where there would be a license plate reader when you enter the park, one when you exit the park, and it would actually eliminate the need to have parking enforcement in that area, which is very, very complicated because there's only one way in and one way out of that. So we waste a lot of man hours in that county park trying to enforce parking. So we're looking at technology fixes so we can get our parking enforcement officers more in the neighborhoods and handling those resident-only parking areas that people seem to park in, ensuring that we're, kind of doing what's best for the residents. So multi-level approach. So, we're hoping to get that out within the next 3 or 4 months. Then we're going to have to get it back, and then we're going to have to start reviewing the RFP. So it's going to take a little bit of time to increase our technology and our abilities to do things like you're saying. But I agree with you as well.
So currently, like, we use the Amano license plate reader, and I know that we have, I think it's something like 26 license plates that they can read perfectly, but then you get to the old Texas license plates, and it can't read that at all. Do we have one that reads all 50 states, or not? I guess we're going to need Hawaii.
Yeah, good point. So our technology, again, it's limited just like you're saying. And you've seen the state legislation has, ruled that you can't have certain frames around your, those causes problems. It goes even deeper than that, to be quite honest with you, because we still have an antiquated system where there is still hang tags in some areas. So literally our parking enforcement officers they're scanning the tag. It pops that they haven't paid. They have to get out of the vehicle, go to see if there's a hang tag, go to see if there's a handwritten note that they're an employee somewhere. It's a rough system that there's a lot of things we need to fix. So this is an attempt to at least get some revenue in while we're starting to handle some of those much harder things. And what I will tell you as well is, again, the reason we provided this kind of a la carte pricing options for your all's input back to us is knowing that we can update this on an annual basis, right? So if we do something and we see, because quite honestly, we could do all this and the demand could drop and our revenue could stay the same, worst case scenario, right? So we might need to pivot to do something different. On top of that, we have to build this into a fee appendix. So we're talking with legal right now to see if we can put a range, because right now if you look at our fee schedule, you'll see that at a certain time it costs this, at a certain place it costs this. We're talking about putting in a range so that we can do some of those things that you're talking about in the future, where we do demand-based pricing, where it does raise in the busy times and lowers in the other times. So it's just a multi-step process is what I'm trying to explain.
Now, we know that the two parking apps have been purchased by the French company. Like, within the next month, do you think it's possible that we can look into their apps and see what they can do? Is that possible? And then we have a meeting this time next month, don't we?
I would like to say that's possible. We certainly we'll try to make that happen for sure.
We might not have to do all that work. We probably do, but we might not.
That's fair.
Have to.
Yep, that's fair. Yeah, we're kind of relying on our vendors. I know that deal went through with those two companies combined a while back, and it's but they're still operating as two separate companies unless something changed since the last time Kathleen and I talked. So they're still operating as two different companies. So again, just to give you a full holistic look at this, regardless of what we decide here as far as this demand pricing, then we have to work with each one of those individual companies to basically make those rates viable on their platform. So for example, it's probably been 2 years now where we increased parking fees. We went through that process, and one of the companies updated them, felt like overnight, and the other company didn't update it for it was probably a month and a half, maybe longer, right? So, conceivably, depending on what app you use, you're paying a different rate out here, kind of like we're doing right now with the county park. So, it can be complicated at times.
And then, Francis, you probably can back me up on this one, that we have found out that a lot of times when you do have a lot of demand, that you lower the price, people will come, and you'll end up making more money if you lower the price at that point in time. For instance, I'm thinking of the Seahorse right now. And a lot of the spaces, even when, during the week, around the Seahorse are not taken. And if we lower that, it would probably push more people into going there for breakfast, or, doesn't necessarily have to be the weekend. But I know we talked about high demand times. Do we have very low demand times that we can adjust?
We do, and that, I think that was in the PowerPoint slide we talked about. I think it was from 8 to noon, I think, is what we, again, just to give you the numbers, and it was gonna decrease the revenue by about $500,000. But again, that's doing it all the time from 8 to noon, and the demand times certainly are different, obviously, during the week as opposed to weekend, things like that.
Did
So
we take into consideration increase in demand because of a lower price, or is that not?
because it would just be hypothetical, so we just based it on real numbers. So, but again, like, you know, for example, so we did 8 to noon. Truly, the demand starts picking up at like 11. So if you look at the data, the demand, you know, basically beach-wide starts at like 11. So, you know, you could, again, we're just trying to get your all's feedback, but certainly we could do like a reduced cost from 8 to 11, and, you know, that would minimize your losses and maybe boost your businesses, you know, going down there for breakfast, things like that.
I say, I agree with Stacy 100%. I agree with John that we need to get money from parking, but I also don't believe that we need to put a separate line item for credit card fees. I do think we should start the process of looking at the apps and seeing what they can do. But I also think that we should actually take a look at times where, when do we have very low demand, and adjust those two. And I know you have a specific time, but there might be, other times throughout the day that.
So, to your point, right now, the technology, we're not at a point where every week or every day we could adjust these rates. So we're not in control of the rate adjustments. We have to go through this company. The ideal would be, and I've been places where staff actually have access to a platform, they manage the demand, they change it. Like, they can literally say, we know it's raining today. But AI can probably get to that point too. But before AI, you would have a staff member saying, we know we have low demand today. So whatever we choose right now in this interim period, it has to be set. Like, we'd have to pick, like, Mondays and Tuesdays from 8 to 11 are gonna be $1 less than 12 to 8.
Well, I was thinking more like add 2 to 4 in there on weekdays too, like on the off season or whatever it is. Like, not just in the morning before lunch. But
Okay.
when we have the lunch, it increases.
Kathleen, you have those low demand times, don't you, other than 8 to noon?
We do,
I know
But if it doesn't help,
parking is initiated at what time of the day, and I know which days of the week, and I know month by month. I don't see an obvious low demand period, except for first thing in the morning.
I also just want to add, and not picking on that idea, but I don't know how I want to say this. I don't mean this ugly when I say this, but are people really going to watch, okay, I only want to go to the beach 2 to 4 because it's cheaper, right? And if we're chasing times, if we just keep it, I agree with you, but not like mornings and after, like, too much is too much. Maybe do one set time or whatever if you want to do that, but I kind of agree. We just need to increase our prices, be consistent with the county, and then run with it. AI is going to come out with something that's going to be able to do the surcharges, but right now, I think it's just a lot, and I personally, my personal opinion, I don't know if they're going to have to go onto our website and see what times is cheaper parking by $1. Really?
No.
Well, yeah.
And I'm not picking on that idea, but I think that eventually when AI can be a little bit more clear, it's too hard for people to try to follow, and they're not going to.
Next step, next year, maybe, we can look at that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
This year, let's just do our increases. Everyone's gone up. There's nothing wrong with going up.
I mean, you
Don't
can't
do the
find a
3%.
spot on weekends. Everything is gone on weekends.
And that's where Kathleen is like, that's what solidified my idea.
If the weather's
my
nice,
thought.
winter and summer and spring and fall.
We're pretty full,
Yeah.
typically. We really are. We don't have a problem getting people on our beaches.
No.
and again, to your point, revenue is one part of why you charge for parking, right? Turnover is another reason, right? So we are thinking about our businesses, again, you find that sweet spot where people are coming, but they're turning over the spot as well. So, someone's coming into the Seahorse and having breakfast, rather than stay the whole day, they're turning over the spot and someone else is coming to the Seahorse. So,
That's a girl. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And Upton Beach is going to be the same way, because people drive in circles, constantly looking for parking spots. So,
So raise it all.
raise it, no credit card charge.
No credit cards, no credit
No
cards.
credit card
Everything but
charge.
the credit card
Yeah.
charge.
Raise everything but the credit card charge is our recommendation.
Yeah, that is my recommendation.
And as far as the methodologies that we kind of presented to you, that sunset surge, the kind of high season surge, and then that weekend, adding Fridays to it. I know we talked about the county park bringing that seems
down the
an
road.
easy one to me as well. But, so certainly as long as you guys agree with those methodologies, then we'll kind of fine tune them before we present them to the commission. Okay, all right?
Do we
Yeah, and all together, I mean, I
need
know
to
you
take a
didn't give
vote
us
on
the
that?
price.
Yes.
But that's almost like 2 million. So that's a good, we need that.
Right.
And the other part to this is too, is keep in mind, we've had some oddities in these last couple of years with the hurricanes, things like that. So we're using historic data, but that data is skewed to some degree based on those storms and things like that. What we are seeing is, and I judge it based on incident volume in the fire department because I'm uniquely familiar with it. And, we just had the busiest January call volume in the history of the fire department from what I can tell. So, you're starting to see things pick back up. So conceivably, these numbers that we have, they could be low, right? Because the demand could be even higher as we move forward. So these are just based on historic figures. Could go down as well based on if you raise the rates too high, things like that. But
Do we get reports from Park Mobile?
we do. We get them monthly, yes, yeah. And that's how we built all this data from, yes.
The recommendation is that we go with the proposed rate increases, except for the credit card fee.
Okay?
I second that motion.
Okay,
Agreed.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you all. We really appreciate your feedback. It was very helpful. So
Nice briefing.
Yeah, she did
Yeah, nice.
fantastic.
Good job.
Hey, and good job. I've been
Yeah.
wanting this.
Very good.
That was
She's the
awesome.
brains of the operation, for sure.
Yeah,
did a good
good
job.
job.
Good.
Good job.
Very good job.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And no change to residents. Yeah, and that's the key thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that takes care of parking. Ad valorem revenue, House bill impacts.
Yes, well, good afternoon.
Happen.
It was nice. Thank you, Kathleen, for sharing the presentation load this afternoon. For the record, Devin Schmidt, Finance Director for the city. So I'm just going to take you all through some ad valorem revenue House bill impacts. As soon as that presentation, oh, there we go. Oops. Wait 1 second, that's not the right presentation.
I want to know about revenue generation.
That's next. No, Jamie's listening. I saved the wrong presentation for you, Jamie. I'm so sorry. Saving it in the right place now. That's a preview for where we're headed in March, so spoiler alert. Apologies for the delay. All right, Jamie, it's in there now under ad valorem. I just saved it in the meeting presentations under, okay. Let me see if I go through this way.
Vanessa, can you pop in and see if Jamie needs help, or you can help her? Okay.
Next year is our city's 70th anniversary.
I just resaved it. I just resaved it. Sorry about that.
Should we switch the two presentations? Let's see.
We could, yeah, we could switch to capital projects first.
Sure.
I mean, that's gonna be the same thing in the back where they gotta pull that up for us, but,
Capital projects.
You want to tell her?
yeah.
Jamie, can you just pull up capital projects while you're looking for the other one? We're gonna flip the agenda.
Is this a new tool or the one that we used before?
This is a brand new tool.
Okay.
So, okay, again, apologies for that. Too many presentations and saved the wrong one out there, so I apologize. So for our capital projects prioritization tool, what we were looking at in developing this new tool, we just looked at what the Government Finance Officers Association recommended. There's a lot of municipalities that participate in GFOA. About 1,900 of them are a part of the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Award presentation. And so with that, you get a lot of information and you can look at different budgets from across the country. I'm sure you saw as well that this budget was actually a Distinguished Budget Award, which is the first time that's ever happened for the city. So we're part of those 1,900 municipalities, local governments, and school districts now. Yep, so we put one in there for you guys, so, you know, your testament and work is part of that as well. But when we were looking at this, what this really does for us is it gives us the opportunity to have an ability to score and compare our capital projects that is objective, but also repeatable year over year. It gives us the ability to align our city strategic roadmap or priorities that may change, you know, in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, but it gives us that ability to be fluid. And then it helps us really kind of manage some of those really important pieces that we see right now around resiliency, gives us the ability to meet any of our regulatory obligations. And then it gives us the opportunity to think about, are we utilizing and allocating our limited financial resources towards the right projects for the community. In addition, this tool would be included in all of our budget documents, so it would be in appendices so that if any member of the public wanted to see, hey, how did this project make the list, but this one didn't, it just helps elevate some of that transparency as we're working through this prioritization with, you know, as your email said, $213 million in needs. This gives us an ability to further rank what opportunities we have there. So with that, this just kind of talks a little bit about how we can utilize the tool. So when we're looking at setting some of those weights, totaling up to 100, so any project could reach a score of 100%. That gives us the ability to say, you know what, we're in a place where we're not still trying to recover and we're not still in this resiliency, and let's look at, we want to have enhancement projects down the road. So we could say, let's change that weight to be higher for something like that. Or if we were in a place where we said, you know, we really want to incentivize economic and smart growth impacts, that could have a higher weight in a given year. So that's what keeps this somewhat fluid as we're looking for the opportunity to change as those priorities and strategies change from the commission level. with each of those scoring guidance, and I'll go through, I printed this out for you as well, but I'll go through and take a little bit more time working through what that looks like. So that's really kind of the meat of how these projects will arrive in our capital projects. And then for each one of those, a project would be ranked from a 0 to 5, depending on how well they meet that certain criteria. Once that happens, all the scores would automatically calculate the weighted scores and would provide some of that overall ranking for commission to see how staff is prioritizing. And then we can use different scenarios to say, let's look at how many of these departments are listed under the capital projects, or what strategic goal area is the most funded, things of that nature. So it'll give us some abilities there. But really the goal is so that we're able to have a consistent, defensible way to say, this is why this project rose above that project, for instance. So looking at some of the criteria used, I did go ahead and just print this out because I thought it would be a little bit easier for you to look at and digest. But when we're looking at what the different criteria is, we have 10 different areas where a project could be ranked on. And so looking at our first and foremost, we have that health and safety, which ties back to the strategic roadmap area around reliable infrastructure and impact. So this is really looking at, is there an immediate risk to life, safety? Are we having failing seawalls? Do we have a road collapse or a bridge, or is there emergency access issue? So that one would, on our scoring criteria, it would be a 5 if there was an imminent risk to public safety. So that would be something pretty critical that we would need to address. When we go down to that regulatory and mandate, so this is any area where we're required to comply with a law, a consent decree, permitting, or interlocal agreements. So when we're looking at the ranking there, that is more time-bound in nature. So if there's a non-discretionary deadline and it's less than 12 months, that's going to be pretty high. If it's within 1 to 2 years, if it's going to become a likely mandate or a best practice, or even if it's advisory, that it's advised we should take care of that particular project, then that's how each one of those would push through on that ranking, whether you decide 0 through 5. When we're looking at the asset and condition and risk assessment for under reliability infrastructure under that impact, what this is really looking at is projects are going to be scored under the likelihood of failure multiplied by the consequence of failure. So what this is thinking about is ensuring if there's a risk that's evaluated in a clear and kind of quantifiable way. So we're able to look at risk and how likely the asset is to fail and how severe the impact would be if it does. So if this seawall fails, 400 residents' homes, or what does that look like? And so that's taking it in a bit more quantifiable. So if there's a very high risk of failure, that would align as a number 5, so that would have a higher ranking, and then all the way down to none. There's no risk of failure. That's not something we need to be concerned with. Community prosperity. So this is looking at one of those areas where we could improve access or quality of life for residents, so a high benefit. Let's say, for example, the residents really wanted another swimming pool or something of that nature. That could be a project that would rank very highly on there because it's increasing that quality of life for the residents. Recovery and resiliency. This was one last year that we really focused on, and we had our 1, 2s, and our 3s, if you remember. What this is really looking at is what options do we have to mitigate any flood erosion? Do we need to improve water quality? Is there a coastal resiliency factor included in that? And so those ones would rank at, if there's a major resilience or some sort of mitigation opportunity, that would rank as a 5, and then all the way down to 0. Under economic and smart growth impact, so that's, again, we're kind of tracking with our roadmap that the commission had approved, so we're following what their priorities are in ranking these projects. This is really looking at opportunities to enhance any activity or tourism corridors, reduce business disruption. So if it was a major citywide economic or tourism impact, that would rank as a 5, and then all the way down to 0. These other ones really fall under what I would consider our operational excellence goal area within our strategic roadmap. And so that first one there, when we're looking at our life cycle of operation and maintenance, that's giving us the opportunity to look at each project, including the ongoing and maintenance cost of it. So it places high O&M assets and improves some of our standardization when we're looking at that. But what this does as well is it gives us the ability to look up what kind of those upfront costs are that the city would spend over time. So replacing expensive to maintain assets, standardizing equipment, right-sizing facilities to help reduce some of those operating costs and improve efficiencies. So this is that one where you'd look at and say, hey, we kind of have a constant break-fix situation here. We're spending this much in operations to maintain this vehicle. Let's consider replacing it. So with that, if that were to rank highly, it would be a large saving for us to be able to avoid any major operating and maintenance costs, and then all the way through. For our funding leverages and restrictions, again, under operational excellence, this would be for us to have an availability of grants. So, you know, are there opportunities for us to have a partner or a cost share or something like that? Let's say the county wanted to be involved. So with this one, this would rank at a 5 if we have greater than 50% funding, and then all the way through with, you know, we've secured 50% funding, or a 3 is likely that we think we could receive a grant for this particular project, then that's another kind of ranking on that one as well. For project readiness, this one also falls under operational excellence under that impact. What this is really looking at is where is the project in its life cycle? Is it with the request for bids? Is it in a conceptual area? Or is it a project that's shovel ready? So shovel ready is going to rank the highest. We can move on it today. And then it gives us the opportunity to go look at 4, 3, and 2. So a 4 would be, hey, we're at a 60% to 100% design. 3, we're still looking at feasibility, or we're studying the project to determine if that should move forward. And so that's how that would kind of rank through. And then our final one is kind of bundling and coordination. So this is combining some planned work. So if we were to tear up a pipe underneath and we needed to do the street on top of that as well, if there's a high synergy where it says, yeah, we need to do these 2 projects together, that would rank as a 5. Compared to as we go down to less coordination of projects. That's kind of how that kind of flows through. So as we're looking at that, these are the different areas where we could look to have an opportunity with the different weights. So based on the strategic roadmap and the priorities of our current commission, we understand that we are in a period of recovery and resiliency. We're in a period of looking at any areas where we may have risk and reducing those. So our highest weighted areas are going to be around safety. The mandates, while not necessarily on the strategic roadmap, that is something as a city we have to follow. If the state or the feds come in and they say, hey, you have to address this, a lot of times we don't have the choice, and a lot of those are typically unfunded. So it's something that we have to do. And then as we're looking at any sort of resiliency or building back better, so those were some of the common themes that we heard out of our strategic roadmap from the commission. Some of those more moderate weighted would be around our community prosperity and economic growth. And then what I would call our supporting factors are those operational efficiencies. So those ones are the ones that are falling up under operational excellence that are a lot more tied towards project readiness, the planning, the coordination, and then of course the funding aspect of it. So all of these weights could be adjusted any time. If this board said, hey, you know, we'd really like you guys to think about this should be weighted at a higher level, or when we bring this to commission, if they had the same thought process and said we'd like to see these weights changed. And again, this gives us the opportunity to say once we're kind of out of that recovery and resiliency, that maybe community prosperity or economic and smart growth becomes something that's important to this community. We could change those weighted levers as needed. So with that, I'll stop talking and would love some feedback from the board.
It seems very similar, but I like the additional detail over the last way that we were doing it. And I think it's really critical that we get the staff input, because, you know, when the public services director is there and says these programs can dovetail in, I know the last time that's what we really needed was that expertise. So when we get staff's input on that, and then we sit down there and look at this, and as people who, you know, live here, you know, we live it every day. So that's where I think our board input can really start to refine this down, whereas we get better information from that, the staff input.
Agreed.
Yes, it would be nice for us to, when we do this, to do this as a group together with staff available to provide input. I think several years ago, that's the way it happened. And it's changed, but I would like to do it as a group, and then send our recommendations to the commission.
Only thing I would caution you on is, so part of this process is the criteria, the 10 criteria are really, that's the policy level. So today we're asking you, from a policy level, have we weighted them correctly? And then staff has 60-plus projects. So it would take us hours to sit here and go through every project and then assign points. So you're relying on staff to, with their engineering expertise, with the strategies you've provided us, they're going to plug in the numbers. Then they're going to do the math based on your policy level guidance on health and safety. Yes, 15% weight's appropriate. Then we would come back and bring you all the math, which staff would be available, and you could ask, well, why did you rate Pump Station 1 a 5? I don't agree with you. And so I would just encourage that process over asking us to come together over 60 projects to.
Oh, that sounds to me like a better process.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I like that.
And I like the outline. I like the level of the way it's outlined, as far as health and safety being top, and then the other things of lesser importance.
Once the commission approves this, can we put it on the website? Like, this is how we, okay.
Yeah, and then I think that after, and once it's implemented, things can always be tweaked, right? And that's what I like, is like, get that implemented, see how it is, and really see if that's the order that it needs to go.
Right, and you're seeing this is part of an annual process. It'll be,
Oh, absolutely.
we'll be back to you next year, and we'll say, is health and safety still weighted at 15, 20? So today, we would like to hear, do you agree with these weightings before we take them to commission? And if
I
you
do.
think they need to change, we can,
Can I see that slide again with the weights, or the 15? I would agree, just because I wouldn't know any better right now. And then after, as we start watching
Right.
it.
I would agree with that. I mean, preliminarily, it makes
yeah,
sense to me.
Yeah,
It makes sense to move forward, and again, we can always make changes.
yeah.
The important thing, it gets done.
Is there a reason why we went by 5? 5, 15, 10? Like, I mean, can we do like 15, 12, 10?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think when I did work with our IT innovation and strategy director, as well as our public services director, when we were looking at some of this criteria, and when we were working through it, what we were trying to capture there, with the exception of the regulatory and mandate, was that in what we received, the feedback from commission is that those were the top priorities of the commission today, was around how each one of these descriptors plays out as part of that strategic roadmap. So if we were to say, well, hey, we're going to rank community prosperity or economic smart growth higher, that wouldn't be in line necessarily with what we've heard from the commission on the roadmaps. But we could certainly, to your point, you could say health and safety should be 18, this should be 13, 12. That was just the initial intent and thought process behind it.
Yeah, it looks to me that, I might be 100% wrong on this, but it looks like the first 2 are more important than the next 2. am I wrong on that? Or like, I will be open to hearing, like, because I'm not sure if it is, but health and safety and mandate, I think, are, even if we lowered the other two to 12 or everything else
And
down
raise the
by
first
2.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Should we lower everything by 2 other than those 2? Or-
I think, like you pointed out, the asset
Yeah, there's
condition
quite a
and
few
risk, recovery and resiliency,
These are similar, but they
being
tailor
ranked as a 12 would be
based
good.
on
Okay.
where they're at, so we wouldn't
Because I
have
agree with you on the health and
the same
safety and the
criteria
mandate
that you
and
would,
regulatory.
And
Those are must-dos.
Yeah.
I will agree.
The only one that I would propose is that bundling and coordination can result in significant savings. Now, if we take the example there, when we tear up the roadway, I mean, we all get frustrated when we go down to one lane on Gulf Boulevard. So I would say bundling and coordination would be higher because we result in savings, we result in less disruption of lifestyle for tourists, businesses, residents, everybody. So I'd like to see that raised up a little bit.
The other question I have is, since this is in use by other municipalities, do these categories mirror what the other municipalities use? Or was there any feedback from other cities that use it, or no?
to some degree, some municipalities have gotten really good at this prioritization. Others will rely more heavily on, looking at just different master plans. But I think, if you were to look at a municipality, I'll use Denver, for example. They would be looking at sustainability because that's something that's important there, as well as if there's a benefit to unhoused, for example. So I think it's tailoring it where they're not going to be concerned about coastal resiliency. So when we're looking at some of these cities, it's how do we, and that was part of the process, is how do we tailor this to, one, the strategic roadmap that the commission has put together, but then two, what does it look like for a coastal community and what opportunities do we have here? So, and I think where we'll have a better benefit this year is just putting as part of that budget document an appendix that says, here's all of the projects that we looked at, and you can see the different rankings, because they're all not going to be able to go forward, right? But it just gives us another opportunity to say, what funding mechanisms can we put forward and what do we have to put forward? So.
I can overthink everything. And I'm thinking that mandate should be number 1 and health and safety should be number 2, and then everything else fall behind that. Because we have to do mandate.
I think they're equally rated, though.
Yeah,
I think health and safety should be on the top, and I think it's a perception.
But doesn't mandate, don't you have to do that? Like there's no other choice?
I think it's a perception. I think that if people think that mandate is more important than health and safety, I think you're overthinking it.
I see, yeah, I'm overthinking.
I think you're overthinking it.
I think health and
Yeah, and
safety,
if they're equally weighed, then it doesn't matter.
I think
But I
health,
think health and safety should be top because
Yeah.
everyone needs to know that safety is our main priority. And then we mandate it.
So I would propose then, to move us along, the asset condition and risk be weighted at 12, recovery and resiliency be weighted at 12, and bundling and coordination, I think would be rated as 12 as well.
And then you like the 10, 10, and the rest, and then the next 3, 5.
Yes.
I like that.
Community prosperity,
You
yeah.
get 2 15s, 3 12s.
We need to shave 1 point somewhere.
The lesson learned from the bundling and coordination is during the last one, when we had Camden in here and we were talking about the flood mitigation, the seawalls, the baffle boxes, all of these things, and they needed to be coordinated in order to be effective.
So would that be would you rank that as high as recovery and resilience?
We're 1 point over. Could that one be an 11?
Yes.
Look at you go. Problem solved. I like it.
okay,
That's fine.
sure.
All right, so just for the record then, what the board is proposing is that health and safety would stay at 15, regulatory and mandate would stay at 15, asset condition and risk would be at 12, recovery, resiliency would be at 12, community prosperity at 10, economic smart growth at 10, bundling and coordination I just moved up, and that would be at 11, life cycle O&M 5, funding leverage restrictions 5, and project readiness at 5.
Yes.
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 Excellent.
And if it gets too complicated and you say, okay, well, it works better if we're at 5s, then just let us know.
No, I mean, it should be fine. I mean, since we have numbers 1 through 5 for how they're going to be ranking it, there's going to be some even and odd numbers in there anyway, so it should work out just fine. Excellent. Well, thank you.
Good job.
Good job.
Yeah, very good job.
Thank you. Coordinated effort. So I think on to our next presentation.
I need to excuse myself for a moment.
No problem. Okay, thank you, Jamie. My apologies. So what we're looking at today for the board is our ad valorem revenue House bill impacts. City staff has really been tracking what's happening at that state level up in Tallahassee and what would the local impacts be to St. Pete Beach. So kicking off, this group knows more than anybody, just from the budget processes and all of your work on this board in the past, is that when we're looking at our ad valorem tax, it is 40% of our total general fund revenues in a given year. And our operating expenditures, just wanted to provide what governmental support is supported by those ad valorem taxes. So that's going to be, our law enforcement at a 14%. That's going to be fire and EMS at 31%, public services at 18%, followed by IT and community development, and parks and recreation. You can see is a larger number in there as well. So with that, I think it's really important for this board to understand what the impacts are if these House bills do pass and what the severity would be on our general fund revenue budget. So if we're looking at the first House bill, this is reduction of all homestead revenue, all homestead, if that went completely exempt, and you did not have to pay any property taxes as a homesteaded property. What that would do to the city of St. Pete Beach is we would be in a deficit of $4 million. So that's the most severe one that we are looking at and tracking with. Next, if all of the senior exemptions were to pass, so this is anyone over 65, it would eliminate all non-school property tax for seniors. Another piece for the board to understand is that each one of these bills is going to state that you cannot reduce down public safety, so that includes law enforcement and fire and EMS. So anywhere else, as well as the school property taxes. So those are the areas that would maintain the same. But this would be a $3 million impact to our general fund revenues if this bill were to pass. And then looking at our ad valorem at the 25% impact, so this is if the assessed home valuation is taking that exemption of 25% of the taxable value after all other exemptions, this would be a $1 million impact to the city. And then this is looking at for property insurance relief, so this would create an additional $200,000 for insurance holders. This would be at $2 million for the city if this bill were to pass. And then this is the portability one. So this is taking that unlimited cap on portability. So the impact is because any homeowners with the large kind of deferred amounts would rarely move to keep those savings. This one would be about $109,000 impact if that were to pass at the state level. So before I kind of jump on, is there any questions on any one of those bills that I might be able to answer? The biggest piece for us is just demonstrating to the board what we could be facing in future year budgets in the event one of these House bills does pass.
Yeah.
The basis of this is they want us to raise taxes on non-homestead, right? That's what
To offset it.
I think that's what
Yep.
they're,
Yeah.
that's the language that I'm hearing from it.
So based on, and we won't have this information until June. So what we get from the county, as you all remember from last year's cycle, was that we went through and we looked at the rollback rate, we looked at the current rate, the majority, the 2/3. When we get that information, I don't know if there is a thought process at the state level to say, we're gonna go ahead and say no cap, and then it would be all on the non-homestead folks to fit the property bill. That part isn't clear to us yet, or even knowing what those different millage options are gonna be for the city for this fiscal year. But this is just with today's information from the assessor's website to say, you can look at any city and see kind of what those impacts are for a municipality if any of these were to pass, so. So with that, that was my other presentation that you guys saw. So we certainly are working on a revenue generation strategy. We put together last fall, our city manager asked us to put together a working group to start considering if, let's say, ad valorem went away, or even with the $213 million projects needs that we have within the city for infrastructure, what options haven't we looked at, and what opportunities do we have to increase revenue or get creative with some ideas as we're working through it? So on the highest level, some of the areas that we're looking at, obviously I just talked about the ad valorem taxes changes, and then our charges and services, that's really what all of these different fee studies that are going to come to you all are about. So you saw parking today. At the next meeting in March, we had asked for you guys to consider what we're looking at for the enterprise funds. So that's wastewater, stormwater, reclaimed water. And then in addition, running parallel, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board was looking at our recreation operating fees as well. So those are something that I would say are very much in motion. When we bring that back to you, we will have kind of a history of all the subsidies that the general fund has provided to those enterprise funds, so you can see over the years what options are there. When we're looking at some of those intergovernmental revenues, we'll also have information on how many different grants we've looked at over the year, how many are we even eligible to apply for, what ones we have been awarded, and what other opportunities we have there. In addition, we'll also show some information just about the bed tax, how much we generate here locally. That is something that we don't have a local control over. That's through the county, as this group knows, but we'll have some information about that as well. And then when we're looking at permits, fees, and special assessments, again, those are some areas that are part of the fee study, but also, you know, as we're looking at some of these bigger projects, what opportunities should we be looking at to consider? Should we assess residents? Is that something that we should be looking at for some of these larger projects? What opportunities do we have there? You just heard about the Parking Enterprise Fund presentation. So some of the other areas, just kind of ad hoc, you know, is there ever going to be an opportunity for the city to have a local municipal sales tax, for example, that we can control and that we could levy? Is there an option for us to look at like a roundup? If you go to the grocery store and, yeah, I want to round up for a St. Pete project. What options do we have for a community foundation, for example, that would be outside of the city? So projects like Mary Pier or the fire station, where somebody says, hey, I want to donate to that project. What options do we have to establish something like that? We're looking at, you know, is there opportunities around local vacation rental surcharges? So that brings us back kind of into that bed tax arena, and what options do we have at a local level? Is there any opportunities for us to leverage a public-private partnership where a company wants to come in and they're doing the initial investment and then we're paying them back over time? And then parking optimization we've talked about. Is there any opportunities for us to look at a hazard mitigation fee, for example, that says, here's $2 on your water bill for, we're planning in case there's another hurricane or something of that nature. What options do we have there? A local property transfer tax fee, so a dollar amount where if you came in and your house sold, then that new person coming in, what options do we have to say, here's a fee for you coming into this area to pay for all the infrastructure that past residents have already paid for, or what future projects we might have that you would benefit from.
What would that be called?
I think it's called a local property transfer.
Property transfer tax. And some states collect it at the county and local level.
Interesting.
It can be very big in some areas.
Yeah, the larger transactions, like hotels changing names, those generate, in some places, millions of dollars.
And that would just be for commercial?
No,
No, you do both residential and commercial,
Well,
some,
but it's based on the sales price.
right.
Yeah, it's
Well, I
usually
mean,
a
there's already
percentage.
two things that's based on the sales price for residential, so that would be just a third line item.
yep,
Interesting.
it's real in some places.
Wow.
Yep.
And that would be on the buy side, not the seller side,
Correct.
which,
You're kind of buying in.
yeah, the seller has the two bigger ones anyways. Okay, interesting. Okay.
No, you're good. Feel free. And then some of the other areas, just looking at a fire assessment fee, if that's something the city should explore, a community redevelopment area, what opportunities do we have for that? And then if there's any new event revenue that we haven't considered in the past. So these are just some of the exploration of ideas that staff is currently working on that we would track to bring to this board as well as to our commission to get some guidance on what our opportunities are, what should we continue to go down the path of exploration, or what should we stop? We're also looking at working with our legal to say what can we legally do in Florida as a municipality. So these are some of the areas that we've just been kind of working on so you guys can understand. But anything that, you know, I've shared a little bit that you would recommend that we look at, or any grand ideas out there?
What was the one about the investors? Is it like a pilot program that like payment in lieu of taxes, where they pay for the repairs that the city would normally do, and then we give them a break in taxes until it was paid back to us, plus interest or something like that? No? Okay. What was that about? The one where you said the investors, like private.
Oh, the public-private partnerships? So a lot of times, those would be projects, and unfortunately, it's going to be projects that are a little bit more excitable. So let's say we want to bring in a baseball field here and have spring training. A lot of times, you're going to get a public-private partnership where you have a private company that comes in and says, hey, we want to build this for you, but we want you to manage it, and it ends up being our asset. So for some of these larger projects like a pump station or a seawall, it's a little bit harder to garner some excitement and support around, but it's certainly something that has been leveraged. They utilized it, I want to say was it Jacksonville? I can send you some of the information, but they have utilized it in the past for some less exciting projects, but it just gives the opportunity for them to come in, they're upfronting the capital costs, and then what we're doing is it ends up being our asset, and we're kind of paying them back over time.
Okay.
We also, and I'm going to add this to the record because we were directed by the commission to look at 2 additional pretty complex revenue generating strategies, which involve tolls and transfer of ownership of roads to make that whether it was viable or not. So that'll be included in the presentation, as well as we've been working with the University of Florida law students on the viability of a commercial parking assessment. So they're going to be here for the commission presentation to provide they took it on as a school project. It is a new idea. It hasn't happened in the state of Florida, and so they're presenting all of these creative ideas. So
Love it.
lots to come.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, that question about donations. In the past, people have donated things to the city. There's no bar that says they can't continue to do that.
We'll take any money
Right.
anyone wants to bring.
Any playground, any
To the
money,
city.
any ballpark.
If you want naming rights, we're interested.
A lot of our parks have been donated.
Yes. Yeah, and that could continue. We could take private property and transfer it to public property.
Somebody wants to build the shuffleboard court.
Absolutely.
Things like that. Okay. I thought there may have been some new
Harley
Park,
Park,
yeah.
that gym thing was donated.
You know, my question is, have we talked
I know what
to
it is.
legal about the
SR, what's it called?
50?
That's it.
Yeah, 503.
That's on the list too.
Okay.
And that is viable.
Okay.
So we're looking at
Yeah.
how to establish that trust, and then it's very easy to take donations and have them essentially connected to someone else's trust so that it goes to the place that that person wanted it to go. So those are viable as well.
I'm going to offer a comment based on our budget that might support that parking assessment, commercial parking assessment. If you look at fire and EMS and law enforcement, that's 45% of our budget. And I've done the study where I asked the chief, you know, where are these things going as far as fire and EMS? And we found out that more than half of them are going to support the businesses. And nothing against the businesses or anything like that. But I don't see where the businesses really are contributing as much as the residents, and I just see that as, you know, their guests coming in requiring emergency services, and the residents are paying the bulk of that bill. I'd like to see that balanced out a little bit more.
This has come up in the past, been raised.
We actually talked, I think we talked about it last year, I think that came up.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And I want to keep
Definitely should
that
go.
discussion
We even
fresh.
said that last time
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
And it has, it's.
Because everyone needs it, and we shouldn't have to pay for everyone.
And there was a comment about January, they've had more calls than ever before.
I just saw that. Yeah.
I just heard that.
All right, you just, yeah,
Which is interesting.
yeah.
I'm curious too, in terms of revenue generation, is there any kind of procedure or committee established already in terms of an outreach to try to purposefully attract desirable businesses to the city? To identify and attract what might be, because, you know, there's quite a few empty lots, as we all know, driving up and down. And, you know, as much as I like ice cream, we don't need another ice cream shop really, but I'd like to, whether it be Tommy Bahama or whatever.
So, yes, so outside committee, no, we do have a community development department that really economic development sort of comes under their umbrella. The community redevelopment agency they're working on right now is targeted at making that area more viable to invest in. And then we benefit from the growth of that investment through tax growth, tax increment growth over several years. That's the only formal thing we have in motion right now, but we do not have a formal outreach strategy at this point to bring businesses in. Not that it's not on our minds.
That's a good question.
This presentation was just a bit more informational, so you all could track with us where we're at. We don't necessarily need any recommendations from the group at this time, but if there is any ideas, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night and say, hey, have they thought about this? Please pass those our way, because we're trying to leave no stone unturned.
Yeah, I love that.
Start with parking.
You know, I say start with the county. County's getting $4.60 of my taxes, and I think that we need their help. I think the beaches need their help. So.
We've tried in the past.
Yeah, I say keep going, keep trying
Yeah.
until we get something.
I like it.
So Devin, how could we pay for that 213? And here's also, that $213 million need is over 10 years, correct? Okay. We could have a bond issue. What would that look like?
So that's part of what we're looking at just under some of the assessments too, to say if this was something that we were to bond for, what does that look like? What would be the cost per resident? What options do we have there? But part of that as well is because all of these are so intertwined is the critical piece is, what is the fee study going to tell us about some of those enterprise fee funds? Because if it's a situation where we can say, or this board or the commission says, you know, we'd rather keep fees low, but let's do an assessment and just address everything, or let's take it off in bits and pieces, but let's, you know, charge people for utilization for what they're actually using for reclaimed water, for example, or things of that nature. That's where that fee study is really critical, but certainly you could do an assessment to say, here's how much we need. Let's look at starting to tackle some of those, and we are looking at that on a project-specific basis right now to see what the cost would be per resident to do some of these larger projects.
I don't want us to be distracted, though. I mean, you know, we've been discussing this for the past 3 years since I've been on the committee, and nothing's changed. You know, it's still, you know, we're putting 32 million, 25 million towards these projects. So 2025, on the bound copies that we just got that's published, is that through September? The capital projects, the prior years. Do you know if that's a full year?
So looking at 2025, no, it's not.
Do you know what month that stops in?
I would have to get back to you on that one.
Do you know if we spent the whole $25 million budget? No. Do you know about how much?
I could get back to you.
So we had, like, I guess my point is we had $200 million, you know, and then, you know, we approved $25 million. $25 million should have came out. Then we had a couple million go back on because of, we had things that come in over and over again. I just think right now that the 200 million is a distraction because there was a press conference about it. I say we just focus on what we've been focused on for the past 2 years and just figure out how to chisel away at this like we've been doing. But yeah, Devin, can you give me that, how much?
Yes, absolutely.
Just a comment on what we're trying to implement here, and I don't think you all have seen before, is ultimately I want Camden to show me a 10-year plan, because you have projects that, in particular, the main sewer line off the island, that is in that 10-year, and it's a big chunk of money. So you want to see those expenses coming, because if we're only focused on 1 or 2 years of capital and we lose sight that either we need to be saving $5 million a year for the next 5 years and, you know, starting to plan it, and because some of that money can be used for design and, you know, you kind of phase into these projects. They don't happen in 1 year. So we're trying to get to that point where you can really see what you're facing. The other critical area that I'm particularly concerned about on resiliency is just the seawalls of the city, not just public but private, and we are about to embark on a complete seawall study of the city to see what does that look like. With that being said, the Don Cesar neighborhood has been taking the lead. They're having serious discussions of assessing themselves to do a complete private seawall. Let's just call it a renovation, rebuild. They have basically 80%, more than 80% of the seawalls in that neighborhood have failed. So they're at a dire level now. And so we're trying to partner. There might be other areas in the city we can start to help and partner with residents, because that assessment could help those residents pay over time versus having to, you know, put out $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 for a seawall. So we're just really, yes, you're right. We have money that's been put aside that year over year, I would say, had not been spent. Last year was particularly challenging because of the hurricanes. So we spent a lot of money, but it wasn't anything we had planned on in the capital improvement program, because we were trying to stabilize basic health and safety infrastructure. This year, you're going to see Camden take a big nugget out of that bank account, because he's pushing hard, and I don't know if you saw his update last week, but he's making some good progress. So I think you're right. It's twofold. We really need to focus on the 1 and 2 year projects and get them done, because I think the residents have been waiting and been told, and, you know, they hear about it and then it doesn't happen. So yes, absolutely. And also, my planner and me is trying to help you all figure out, okay, what does the next 10 years look like? Because I don't want to be the city manager 20 years from now that you say, she didn't do anything and we're underwater. So it's twofold, but definitely we got to deliver. I'm with you. These next 2 years are critical to prove to the
Agreed.
community.
At one time, the subaqueous project was $10 billion. Way back when.
Yes.
Not anymore.
And then one more ask. Once we get the end of the year numbers, can we republish this on the website to have the end of the year numbers for 2025?
We should be able to do that, yeah, absolutely. And we are tracking to meet the deadline this year on our audit, so the team's been working really hard on that. And then just one other, you reminded me with the capital projects presentation that Camden did. If you haven't seen it, it was on January 27th at Commission. It was great. But we will have that capital dashboard that this team had asked for, where you're able to see where a project is happening. And so that's in the works of being developed right now.
For our purposes, I think it was Stacy that brought it up last year. Like, I think it was your first meeting that we can't see what happened on those projects before the current year. If we can add that to it, it would be great. Because we just see from this year going forward how much it's going to cost us. We can't really see.
So you're asking, do you want to see prior years' completion of projects and the money spent?
No, just the current projects that we're working on. So if
Oh, and how much was already expended? Okay, we can probably do that.
Then you would see the progress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Start date and milestones. Any other comments?
great job.
Yeah, this was a good meeting.
No audience comments? We are adjourned.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
When's your
thank you.
Yeah, that's